The company Christmas party was in full swing. Open bar, jazz band, everyone pretending to like each other for one night a year. I was talking to Jim from accounting when I realized I hadn't seen my wife, Rachel, in a while. I checked my phone, 9:47 p.m. I'd last seen her at 9:05 heading to the restroom, 42 minutes ago. I walked through the ballroom, not there. Checked the lobby, empty. Tried calling, straight to voicemail. Then I saw her stepping off the elevator, hair slightly messed up, lipstick smudged, breathing like she'd been running. "Where were you?" I asked. She smiled, touched my arm. "Long line for the bathroom. You know how these things are." I wanted to believe her. But here's the thing about being a cybersecurity analyst. I know where all the cameras are, and I know how to access them. That night, after she fell asleep, I pulled up the building's security system on my laptop. I found the footage from 9:05 p.m., watched her walk past the restrooms without stopping, watched her get on the elevator, watched the doors close. Then I switched to the parking garage camera, level B2, 9:11 p.m. The elevator doors opened. Rachel stepped out. She wasn't alone. If you want to know who walked out of that elevator with my wife and what the next 40 minutes of footage showed me, hit subscribe, because what I saw didn't just end my marriage, it ended 3 careers and exposed something the company had been hiding for 2 years. My name is Nathan Cross. I'm 38 years old, and I work as a senior cybersecurity analyst for Meridian Technologies in Seattle. I've been married to Rachel for 7 years, together for 10. She's a marketing director at the same company, different department, different floor, but we'd met at a company mixer back in 2014. We were the success story, the couple that made office romance look easy. People joked that we were relationship goals. We had a condo in Capitol Hill, 2 cars, a golden retriever named Biscuit, Sunday brunch tradition, date nights every Friday. On paper, we were perfect, but paper doesn't show you everything, and neither do people. The company Christmas party was held at the Fairmont Olympic Hotel downtown, black tie optional, which meant everyone wore black tie anyway because nobody wants to be the one guy in a blazer. Rachel looked stunning, red dress, hair done, the kind of outfit that makes you remember why you married someone. We arrived together at 7:30, checked our coats, grabbed drinks from the bar. "Let's make the rounds," she said, squeezing my hand. "Then we can sneak out early." I smiled. "Deal." We separated naturally. I drifted toward the tech guys. She headed toward the marketing crowd. Normal. Expected. I talked shop with Jim from accounting, debated cybersecurity protocols with my team lead, and watched the clock creep toward 9 o'clock. That's when I decided to find Rachel and suggest we bail. I scanned the ballroom. Didn't see her. Checked the bar. Not there. Walked toward the marketing tables. Her coworkers were there, laughing, drinking, but no Rachel. "Hey, have you seen Rachel?" I asked Stephanie, one of her work friends. "Oh, she went to the restroom like 10 minutes ago," Stephanie said, barely looking up from her phone. 10 minutes. Okay. Long line, maybe? I waited. 15 minutes. 20. I walked to the lobby where the restrooms were, stood outside the women's room like a creep, trying to look casual. A woman came out. Not Rachel. Another. Not Rachel. I checked my phone. 9:35. 30 minutes since anyone had seen her. I tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Texted, "Where are you?" No response. At 9:47, I saw her. She stepped off the elevator into the lobby, smoothing her dress, hair slightly disheveled. Her lipstick was smudged at the corner. Not a lot, just enough. She saw me and smiled, too bright, too fast. "Hey, babe," she said, walking over. "Sorry, the line for the bathroom was insane." I looked at her, really looked. Her breathing was elevated, her cheeks flushed. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, fine, just stuffy in there. Can we get out of here? I'm exhausted. Something in my gut twisted, but I nodded. Sure, let me grab our coats. We left 10 minutes later. In the Uber home, she leaned against me, scrolling her phone. I stared out the window and replayed the last hour in my head. 42 minutes. She'd been gone for 42 minutes, and I didn't believe a word she'd said. That night I couldn't sleep. Rachel was out cold beside me, breathing deep and steady. I lay there staring at the ceiling, running scenarios. Maybe she really was in the bathroom. Maybe she ran into someone and lost track of time. Maybe I was being paranoid. But I'm a cybersecurity analyst. Paranoia is part of the job description, and something felt wrong. At 2 a.m., I got up, grabbed my laptop, and went to the living room. Biscuit followed me, tail wagging, hoping for a walk. Not now, buddy. I scratched his ears. I opened my laptop and logged into the building's security system. Here's the thing most people don't know. If you work in cybersecurity for a company, you have access to a lot of systems, including surveillance. It's part of my job to monitor for breaches, unauthorized access, security threats. I'm not supposed to use it for personal reasons, but at 2 a.m., with my wife's smudged lipstick burned into my brain, I didn't care. I pulled up the footage from the Fairmont. Our company had rented the ballroom, but the building's security system was networked. I had access through our corporate VPN. I found the timestamp, December 15th, 9:05 p.m. There she was, Rachel in her red dress, walking through the lobby. She passed the restrooms, didn't stop, kept walking, straight to the elevators. She pressed the button, waited. The doors opened. She stepped inside, and she wasn't alone. A man stepped in behind her. Tall, dark suit. I couldn't see his face clearly. He had his back to the camera. But I saw him reach forward, press a button. The doors closed. My hands were shaking. I switched camera feeds. The elevator had a camera inside. I pulled it up. There they were, Rachel and the man, standing close. Too close. He said something. She laughed. Then he leaned in, and she didn't pull away. I watched his hand move to her waist, watched her tilt her head up, watched them kiss. The timestamp read 9:07 p.m. The elevator dinged. Doors opened. Level B2, parking garage. They stepped out, his hand still on her waist. I switched to the parking garage camera. The footage was grainy, but clear enough. They walked toward the far corner of the garage, away from the main lights. There was a black SUV parked in the shadows. I watched them stop beside it, watched him open the back door, watched her look around once, checking if anyone was watching. Then she climbed in. He followed. The door closed. The timestamp read 9:11 p.m. For the next 36 minutes, that SUV didn't move. The windows were tinted. I couldn't see inside, but I didn't need to. At 9:47, the door opened. Rachel stepped out first, adjusting her dress, running her hands through her hair. He followed, straightening his tie. They didn't kiss goodbye, didn't hug, just a brief touch on her arm. Then she walked back toward the elevator. He got in the driver's seat and drove away. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my lungs. 7 years of marriage, 10 years together, and she'd just fucked someone in the back of an SUV at our company Christmas party. I rewound the footage, watched it again. This time, I focused on the man. When he turned toward the camera for a brief second, I caught his face, and my stomach dropped. I knew him. His name was Derek Vaughn, VP of Sales, 42 years old, married with 3 kids. I'd met him a dozen times at company events, shook his hand, made small talk. He was one of those guys who always seemed too smooth, too polished, the kind of guy who called everyone champ and wore cufflinks that cost more than my monthly car payment. Rachel had mentioned him before. Derek's pushing for a bigger marketing budget. Derek wants us to pivot the Q4 campaign.
I'd never thought twice about it. Now every mention felt like a knife. I didn't confront her that night. I closed the laptop, went back to bed, and lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe. Part of me wanted to wake her up, scream, demand answers. But another part of me, the part that had spent 15 years analyzing systems and finding vulnerabilities, knew better. If I confronted her now, she'd deny it, gaslight me, cry, apologize, and I'd never know the full truth. So I decided to do what I do best: investigate. The next morning, Rachel woke up cheerful. "Morning, babe," she said, kissing my cheek. "Coffee?" "Sure," I said, forcing a smile. She hummed while making breakfast: scrambled eggs, toast, the Sunday routine. We ate together, talked of nothing. She mentioned brunch with her sister next weekend. I nodded along, playing the part. Inside, I was screaming.
After breakfast, she went to take a shower. I grabbed her phone from the counter. She didn't have a passcode. We'd always trusted each other. I opened her messages, scrolled. Nothing from Derek. No texts, no calls. But there was a messaging app I didn't recognize. Signal. I opened it, and there it was. The thread was labeled D. I scrolled to the top. The messages went back 6 months. Can't stop thinking about last night. When can I see you again? He's working late. I'm free. My hands shook as I scrolled. Photos, not explicit but suggestive. Her in lingerie I'd never seen. Him shirtless in a hotel room. Plans, meetups, lies she'd told me to cover her tracks. And then, near the bottom, a message from 2 days ago. Christmas party, B2 garage, 9 o'clock. I'll make an excuse. His response? Can't wait. I took screenshots, sent them to my email, deleted the sent message from her phone, put it back on the counter, walked to the bathroom, opened the door. Rachel was in the shower, singing. I stared at her silhouette through the frosted glass and felt absolutely nothing. I spent the next week gathering evidence. I pulled more security footage, tracked their patterns. They'd been meeting for months. Hotels, mostly. Sometimes his car. Once in a conference room after hours. I documented everything. Timestamps, locations, screenshots. I didn't tell anyone. Not friends, not family. I just built my case. Because here's the thing, I wasn't just dealing with a cheating wife, I was dealing with a corporate liability. Derek was a VP, Rachel was a director. They were having an affair on company time, using company resources. That's a fireable offense, for both of them, and I was going to make sure the right people knew. On Friday, I requested a meeting with HR, not our department HR rep, the Chief Human Resources Officer, top of the chain. Her name was Margaret Hale, 58, no nonsense, the kind of woman who'd seen every workplace scandal and had zero patience for bullshit. I walked into her office at 2 p.m. with a USB drive. "Mr. Cross," she said, gesturing to a chair, "what can I do for you?" I sat down, slid the USB across her desk. "I need to report a violation of company policy." She picked up the drive. "What kind of violation?" "2 senior employees engaged in an extramarital affair on company property during company events using company resources." Her eyebrows went up. "That's a serious accusation. I have proof." She plugged the USB into her computer. I watched her face as she opened the files. Security footage, text messages, a timeline I'd built showing every meeting, every lie, every breach of policy. Her expression went from skeptical to grim. "Who are the employees?" "Derek Vaughn, VP of Sales, and Rachel Cross, Director of Marketing." She looked up sharply. "Your wife?" "Yes." "Mr. Cross, I'm not here for sympathy. I'm here because they violated company policy, and I'm reporting it." She studied me for a long moment. Then she picked up her phone. "Get me legal, now." The investigation took 3 days.
HR interviewed witnesses, pulled their own footage, verified my evidence. On Wednesday, Derek and Rachel were both called into separate meetings. I wasn't there, but I heard about it later. Derek tried to deny it, said the footage was taken out of context. Then they showed him the texts. He crumbled. Rachel cried, said it was a mistake, that she loved me, that she'd end it. Margaret didn't care. You violated company policy. You engaged in an inappropriate relationship that created a hostile work environment and exposed the company to liability. Both of them were terminated, effective immediately. I was in my office when Rachel called. I didn't answer. She called again and again. Finally, I picked up. "Nathan, please, we need to talk." "No, we don't." "They fired me. They fired Derek. Did you do this?" "I reported a policy violation," I said calmly. "What happened after that was their decision." "You ruined my career." "No, Rachel, you did that yourself." She was crying now. "Please, can we just talk? I'll explain everything." "There's nothing to explain. I saw the footage, I read the messages. I know everything." "Nathan, I've filed for divorce. You'll be served tomorrow. Don't come home tonight. I've changed the locks." "You can't." "I can, and I did. Goodbye, Rachel." I hung up, blocked her number, and went back to work. The divorce was ugly. She tried to fight it, claimed I'd violated her privacy by accessing her phone. My lawyer shut that down fast. "Your client engaged in an affair on company property. Mr. Cross reported a workplace violation. His actions were legal and appropriate." She tried to claim emotional distress. The judge wasn't sympathetic. "You engaged in infidelity, Mrs. Cross. You don't get to claim distress when you're caught." She tried to go after our assets, but I'd been smart. I'd documented every shared expense, every joint account. I'd also documented her spending, dinners, hotels, gifts for Derek that she'd charged to our credit card. "You used marital funds to finance your affair," my lawyer said. "That's dissipation of assets. The court can penalize you for that." In the end, she got almost nothing. I kept the condo, the cars, Biscuit. She got her personal belongings and a hard lesson about consequences. Derek's wife found out too. I didn't tell her, but word spread fast in corporate circles. She filed for divorce within a week, took him for everything: the house, the cars, primary custody of the kids. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment in Renton, working for a third-tier sales firm. Rachel moved back in with her parents in Spokane. She tried to reach out a few times, emails, messages through mutual friends. I never responded. There was nothing left to say.
6 months later, I was sitting in my condo, Biscuit at my feet, working on a security audit. My phone buzzed. A message from Margaret Hale. "Nathan, do you have a minute? I'd like to discuss something." I called her. "Nathan," she said, "I wanted to thank you. What you reported, it opened up a larger investigation." "Into what?" "Derek wasn't just having an affair with your wife. He was involved in several inappropriate relationships with subordinates. We found evidence of harassment, coercion, abuse of power." My stomach turned. Jesus. "We've since implemented new policies, mandatory training, a third-party hotline. You did the right thing." "I just reported what I saw." "And because you did, we caught something much bigger. Thank you." We hung up. I sat there, staring at the wall. I hadn't done it for the company. I'd done it because I was angry, hurt, betrayed. But maybe, in the end, it mattered anyway. A year later, I met someone new. Her name was Claire. She worked in a completely different industry, architecture. We met at a dog park. Biscuit ran up to her golden retriever, and we started talking.
She had no idea who I was, no connection to my past, just a woman who liked dogs and bad coffee and honest conversation. On our third date, she asked, "Have you ever been married?" "Once," I said. "It didn't work out." "What happened?" I thought about the security footage, the parking garage, the 40 minutes that ended everything. "She wasn't who I thought she was," I said. Claire nodded. "That's the worst kind of heartbreak." "Yeah." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here now." I smiled. "Me too." I still work at Meridian Technologies, still live in the same condo, still have access to the security systems, but I don't check them anymore, not for personal reasons. Because here's what I learned. You can't control what people do when you're not looking. You can only control how you respond when you find out. Rachel made her choice, Derek made his, and I made mine. I chose truth. I chose evidence. I chose consequences. Some people called me cold, calculating, heartless, but I wasn't heartless. I was just done being blind. If you've ever had that gut feeling that something's wrong, if you've ever been lied to by someone you trusted, if you've ever had to choose between confrontation and investigation, this one's for you. Comment, "I chose truth," if this story hit home. Hit subscribe for more stories about what happens when the cameras are rolling and the lies stop working. Because the truth doesn't care about your feelings. It just cares about the facts.